The film begins by showing the Ming Dynasty era when Emperor Xuanzong entrusts his authority to eunuchs to wield power in several regions. Unfortunately, this leads the eunuchs to vie for power between the two strongest power centers, Dongchun, or the East Bureau, and Xicheng, or the West Bureau. With their authority, both bureaus are not hesitant to execute those who intend to report their corruption to the emperor. One day, the leader of the East Bureau named Wan Yulu appears ready to kill two officials who intend to inform the emperor about various corrupt activities Yulu has carried out during his leadership in the East Bureau. Just before the execution is to take place in front of Yulu, several wooden beams fall from his throne, followed by an attack from two cap-wearing men. They are kung fu warriors led by Zhao Huaiyun, who aims to overthrow the corrupt leaders in various regions. After confronting several of Yulu's henchmen, Huaiyun attacks Yulu with several powerful blows, but he is unharmed due to wearing a protective golden robe. At that moment, Yulu attempts to flee from Huaiyun, who continues to pursue him until Yulu is forced to face Huaiyun's sword attacks. They engage in a sword fight, with Huaiyun struggling to injure Yulu. Refusing to give up, Huaiyun continues his assault until Yulu is cornered after the kung fu warrior manages to trap the East Bureau leader on a wooden plank. Seizing the opportunity, Huaiyun stabs Yulu in the back and beheads him. As a warning to other corrupt officials, Huaiyun intentionally places Yulu's head in a box and hangs it in front of the public. Sometime later, eunuch Yu Huantian from the West Bureau arrives at the East Bureau upon hearing that Yulu has been killed by a kung fu warrior. At that moment, Huantian belittles the East Bureau for not dealing with the kung fu warriors who often target corrupt officials. Because of this, Huantian decides to deal with the situation himself and eliminate anyone who poses a threat to both bureaus. After his meeting with the East Bureau, Huantian goes to see the emperor's chief consort, Wan Zhan'er. She tells him to stop fighting for power with other officials because she wants him and others to ensure the emperor doesn't have children with anyone other than her. Huantian admits that he told his men to kill the emperor's concubines, but one concubine managed to escape and is now being chased by his men. At the same time, Huantian's subordinates were inspecting several boats passing by the river in search of a concubine named Su Weirong who had escaped. As suspected by Huantian's followers, Weirong was found on one of the boats they checked. She tried to hide her identity by throwing away a pouch of perfume often used by concubines. Unfortunately, Weirong's efforts were in vain as Huantian's subordinates managed to capture her. As Weirong was about to be executed, a female kung fu warrior with a face covering named Ling Yunku, who claimed to be Huaiyun, suddenly appeared to stop Huantian's subordinates. Swiftly, Yunku used her sword to fend off all of Huantian's eunuch subordinates present. Unexpectedly, Huaiyun and his comrades were hiding nearby, observing the situation, and upon seeing Yunku able to control the fight, Huaiyun decided to confront the West Bureau. Meanwhile, Huantian with his troops, aware of Huaiyun's whereabouts, seemed to have boarded a boat to capture the kung fu warrior. Unexpectedly, Huaiyun and his two companions instead launched an attack on Huantian and his subordinates. The ship's captain named Ma Jinlong intervened with his two trusted swords to face the kung fu warriors. At the same time, Huaiyun fought with Huantian on the ship's deck, and due to their evenly matched abilities, their fight lasted quite a while. The battle finally ceased after Jinlong managed to kill one of Huaiyun's subordinates, prompting the leader of the kung fu warriors and his surviving subordinates to retreat by jumping into the sea. On the other side, Yunku had taken Weirong with her to a place known as Dragon Gate. To deceive Huantian's subordinates who were hunting them, Yunku helped Weirong disguise herself as a man. While Yunku was recounting that she still kept the flute of the one she loved, thousands of crows suddenly flew into the area, causing the two women to quickly hide behind a rock. Unfortunately, due to the commotion, Yunku accidentally dropped the flute and damaging it. Although feeling saddened, Yunku quickly urged Weirong to leave and find the nearest inn as a massive sandstorm was about to arrive. After walking for a while, they reached the Black Inn, a place where martial artists often fought. It was said that if a martial artist used chopsticks belonging to another group, they would be killed and eaten. Hearing this, Weirong became very anxious fearing she might become someone else's meal. At the same time, soldiers from the West Bureau led by Tun Luzi arrived at the Black Inn to search for the escaped Weirong, which forcing Yunku and Weirong to immediately hide to evade the soldiers. While the soldiers from the West Bureau were conducting their inspection, a female wanderer leader named Chung Shouwan felt outraged by the soldiers' treatment, especially since she was a woman. Upon hearing this, Luzi felt challenged by the female wanderer leader, and they eventually started to fight, but the battle ceased after Shouwan's subordinates prepared to resist Luzi. The innkeeper also appeared and tried to stop the fight until Luzi decided to buy the Black Inn to trap all the wanderers, including Huaiyun, who might come to the place and fall into his trap. In the kitchen area, a soldier from the West Bureau approached the chef and ordered him to put poison in the food to be served to the group of wanderers staying at the inn. Unbeknownst to them, Weirong and Yunku were eavesdropping on the conversation from outside the kitchen window, but Weirong accidentally coughed, which prompting the soldier from the West Bureau to immediately check the back area of the kitchen. Fortunately, Weirong and Yunku managed to escape, although Weirong's perfume pouch fell and was found by the soldier. After that, Weirong and Yunku tried to find another hiding place until they accidentally discovered a secret door in the desert that led them to an underground room. That night, Luzi and Shouwan's group appeared to be having dinner together when they were surprised by the sudden poisoning of the innkeeper. Unexpectedly, Shouwan had already known about the poison in her food, so she quietly swapped it with the innkeeper's food. Chaos ensued, and during the commotion, two travelers named Wen Gulfei and Fang Litung, also known as Windblade, who bore a striking resemblance to Hua Tian, arrived at the inn. Because Windblade looked like Hua Tian, a soldier from the West Bureau informed Hua Tian about it. Hua Tian saw this as a chance and told Luzi and their soldiers to treat Windblade as if he were Hua Tian. Meanwhile, Hua Tian planned to disguise himself as Windblade and blend in with other travelers to assassinate Huaiyun. To avoid confusion, Hua Tian would use the secret code, "The original has become false," to signal his identity to his soldiers. At the same time, in the underground room, one of the inn servants who was working with the travelers joined their group, talking with Windblade and Gulfei. Meanwhile, Yunku and Weirong hid behind a rock, listening to the travelers' conversation. During the talk, the travelers discussed about their plan to rob gold from the ancient tomb palace after the sandstorm, as that was when the gates of the ancient tomb would open. They also mentioned another inn that had been established in the area but was burnt down by its owner, who turned out to be Yunku, as it had become a battleground for martial artists. Shortly after, they started examining a map of the maze-like ancient tomb palace. Additionally, the travelers requested Windblade to pretend to be Hua Tian and uncover the reason behind Luzi's troops being at the Black Inn. Without wasting time, Windblade hurried away. Meanwhile, in the underground room, the travelers found Yunku and Weirong eavesdropping, which Yunku reluctantly fought against the travelers. At the same time, Windblade had snuck into Hua Tian's location and got details from a soldier about the individual the eunuch was looking for at the Black Inn. Returning to Yunku, who was still in a fight, Huaiyun then appeared to rescue her as she was getting overwhelmed after being hurt by her opponent. Yunku was surprised by Huaiyun's unexpected presence, who turned out to be the flute owner whom Yunku had loved all along. Shortly after, Huaiyun informed the travelers that Hua Tian had discovered their presence in the underground room, so he requested that they cooperate with him to fight against Hua Tian's troops. Facing the same problem, the travelers teamed up with Huaiyun and started planning how to convince the innkeeper to help them. One of Shouwan's assistants then spoke to the sick innkeeper, who had been poisoned, and said that the travelers would give him an antidote if he freed all the horses belonging to the soldiers of the West Bureau. With no better option, the innkeeper agreed. Meanwhile, Huaiyun appeared to be accompanying Yunku while discussing their past, which had been involved in a complicated relationship because Huaiyun liked another woman. Huaiyun actually gave the flute that Yunku carried to the woman he loved, but the woman died after saving his life, so Yunku decided to keep the flute. When Huaiyun left Yunku's resting place, Weirong approached him and asked him not to hurt Yunku's feelings again by making her resent him. The two then acted lovey-dovey in front of Yunku until she got jealous and decided to walk away. Before Yunku left, she met Weirong and disclosed that she was aware of the charade that Weirong was playing with Huayan. Yunku then handed Weirong a dagger, advising her to be cautious. The next morning, Huatian, disguised as Windblade, went with his troops to the Black Inn to launch an attack. Meanwhile, one of the soldiers from the West Bureau reported the release of their horses to Lu Zi, who then ordered his subordinates to check the stables where the innkeeper was releasing the horses. After being captured, the innkeeper admitted that the travelers forced him to do everything. Meanwhile, Lu Zi got a report that the inn was starting to burn, so he instructed all the troops to leave immediately. When everyone was outside the inn to save themselves, they realized that the weather was turning bad and a sandstorm was about to hit. At that moment, Windblade, disguised as Huatian, appeared with his fake troops. One of the West Bureau soldiers then informed Lu Zi about the secret code Huatian had mentioned, prompting Lu Zi to ask Windblade about the secret code. Calmly, Windblade stated the secret code, as he had already known it, and ordered Lu Zi and his troops to return to the inn. Upon reaching the inn, the West Bureau troops were attacked by the travelers wearing West Bureau uniforms. When Huatian and his group reached the inn, Lu Zi and his soldiers, thinking they might be the disguised travelers, didn't trust the secret code Huatian mentioned. Therefore, a fight between the West Bureau troops ensued. On the other hand, Huayan and others devised a plan to attack the remaining West Bureau troops, and with their skills, they began defeating the enemies one by one. After that, Huayan was seen fighting Jinlong, known for his swordsmanship, until Huayan managed to break the captain's sword and kill him. After that, Yunku returned to the inn to help Huayan fight against the West Bureau troops. On the other hand, Huayan finally faced Huatian directly and managed to wound the eunuch's cheek. They continued to fight despite the sandstorm, while the travelers sought shelter in the underground room to avoid the growing sandstorm. At that moment, the sandstorm appeared to damage various places, including the Black Inn, while Huayan continued to battle Huatian. As the sandstorm began to subside, the travelers emerged from their hiding place and searched for Huayan until they found the ancient tomb palace they had been looking for. Without hesitation, they entered the magnificent palace that partly buried in sand. Returning to Huayan and Huatian, they both appeared to wake up in a room of the ancient tomb palace after being carried away by the sandstorm. As the travelers came to help Huayan fight against the eunuch, Huayan asked them to leave and take the gold in the palace, while he would confront Huatian alone. After that, Windblade and the others obeyed Huayan's order and exited the palace, only to be surprised by Weirong, who suddenly stabbed Yunku with her dagger. Unexpectedly, Weirong was a spy for Huatian, so she rushed back to the battlefield to aid the eunuch. Windblade attempted to chase after Weirong, but he stopped when he saw the trap of golden threads she had set. With no other choice, Windblade and the others decided to depart from the ancient tomb palace. Meanwhile, Weirong had reached the battleground where Huatian was and intended to attack Huayan from behind. Fortunately, Huayan managed to evade the attack. At the same time, the sandstorm reappeared, causing the travelers who had exited the palace to leave tide logs as a way out for Huayan. Weirong didn't let Huayan escape, leading them to resume their fight. During the battle, Gulfei assisted Huayan and managed to finish off Weirong. Yunku also aided Huayan in fighting Huatian, and during the fight, she succeeded in injuring the eunuch until he fell into Weirong's trap of golden threads. After that, Huatian was finally defeated, although Huayan was injured after being attacked by the eunuch. The travelers then helped Yunku and the unconscious Huatian to leave the ancient tomb palace. In the final scenes of the film, the sandstorm had subsided, and the travelers gathered to check on Huayan, who had just regained consciousness. At that moment, Huayan asked about Yunku's whereabouts, who had apparently left because she didn't want Huayan to see her injured. Without hesitation, Huayan immediately set off with his horse to search for Yunku. Several days later, Windblade disguised himself as Huatian to visit Zhon'er at the palace. Shouwen posed as a tea servant and poisoned the concubine. Their scheme worked well, and Zhon'er eventually lost consciousness and died after drinking tea from Shouwen. Moral lesson from the story: if you want to poison someone, Make sure you don't confirm the taste of the drink, or you might fall asleep unexpectedly.